Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. I'm Mitzi Borromeo, sitting in for Pia Ontiveros. Our top stories: detained former Customs Chief Nicanor Faeldon accuses Senator Dick Gordon of inhumane treatment, but the Blue Ribbon Chair fires back. President Duterte has accepted the resignation of his son, Davao City Vice Mayor Paulo Duterte. Councilor Bernard Alag from the 3rd District is set to take on the job. And as the new tax reform law takes effect, one major app-based transport service makes a move. Grab is asking the government to increase its fare. We continue to cover this breaking news. President Rodrigo Duterte has accepted the resignation of his son, Davao City Vice Mayor Paulo Duterte. You're seeing the letter from the Office of the President, signed by Executive Secretary Salvador Bingbong Medialdea. Paulo Duterte resigned on Christmas Day. He cited as reason the, quote, maligning of his reputation by accusations that he was involved in the smuggling of 6.4 billion pesos of drugs from China. Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte said her brother began considering resignation after he was linked to the customs controversy. Based on the percentage of votes, Duterte's successor is Councilor Bernard Alag from the 3rd District. Let's speak to Davao City Councilor Bernard Alag. Good evening, sir. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yes, good evening, Mitzi.
Sir, what was your reaction to this news?
Yes, actually, we are very surprised with this development. You know, personally, I'm not really, I'm not in favor of the resignation of the Vice Mayor. But as the successor, as the #1 councilor of the Davao City, I am now duty-bound to accept this responsibility. And right now, we have to wait for the final document to be transmitted here in Davao City. And then after this, the DILG will have to make sure that there is a smooth transition of leadership.
Sir, speaking of transition, nakausap niyo na po ba si Paulo Duterte or Mayor Sara Duterte regarding the transition and what's happening next?
Yes, actually, just a few minutes ago, I texted the Vice Mayor Paulo Duterte and asked for his guidance. And I told him that I'll make sure that all his programs that he instituted in the City Council will continue. And the Davaoenyo will continue to have a good council that is responsive to the needs of the city.
Sir, when will the formal turnover happen?
We have to wait for the final document to be transmitted here in the city, and then after that, the DILG will have to make the necessary oath, or I have to take my oath as the new Vice Mayor of the city.
Sir, as you said, this was unexpected. What is your message to the Davaoenyos?
Yes, to the Davaoenyos, I would like to tell the Davaoenyos that the City Council is still running, and there's no disruption of any services, and we will continue to do our duty as a legislative office in the city.
Thank you very much, sir. Davao City Councilor Bernard Alag, all the best to you.
Kakahirap ng mga Pilipino po yun. Lalo na yung wala pang kaya sa buhay, yung halos sangkayod sa tukada lang, wala mangyayari.
Nakakatulong kung tumaas ang rate ng tax namin. Eh hindi. Sa ngayon hindi pa. Wala pa ngayon. Pero mararamdaman din namin yan.
It would affect naman may take home na mas tataas siya. However nga po, yung sa pag-rise ng price ng commodities.
Sa tingin ko, makakatulong din kapag gamitin lang po ng tama. Saka sana maibalik din sa amin na ordinaryong manggagawa yung tax na nakokolekta.
A word war between Welcome back to Newsnight. A word war between resigned Customs Bureau Chief Nicanor Faeldon and Senator Richard Gordon. Faeldon trades barbs over supposed cruel, degrading, inhumane treatment by the senator. Faeldon has been in Senate detention since September 10 last year after refusing to appear at the inquiry on corruption in the Customs Bureau and the multi-billion drug smuggling. Faeldon says Gordon kept his loved ones from him during the holidays and denied him of the right to observe his religious practices. In a letter obtained by CNN Philippines, Gordon also denied the request of Faeldon's lawyer to take his oath as newly appointed Deputy Administrator of the Office of the Civil Defense. The former Customs Commissioner adds Gordon is taking orders from Senator Ping Lacson, whom he described as, quote, the cement smuggler senator. But in an interview with CNN Philippines, Senator Dick Gordon denies allegations made by Faeldon.
That's preposterous. Nangangarap yan at kulang siguro sa persen. Lahat ng kanyang request, pinayagan until now. Yung birthday ng tatay niya, ginawa dyan. Nagpamisa pa sila, nagparty sila dyan sa dismo. At lahat ng kanyang pakiusap, lumalabas siya dati. Pumunta siya sa fiscal, kasama niya ang USA, ang security ng Senado. Itong hinihingi niya ngayon, pagkatapos siya ma-appoint, magpapatingin raw siya dahil pupunta raw siya sa translation. Ako'y Red Cross ako eh. There are 58 ambulances na nakabantay doon dahil marami nahihilo, nagkakasakit, nagka-hypertension doon. Pupunta siya doon, ang dami-daming tao. Baka may kumanti sa kanya doon, may sumaksak sa kanya doon.
Speaking to CNN Philippines, Faeldon's legal counsel Jose Dino denies all requests were granted. He also questions why Faeldon is deprived of the right to seek medical attention.
We wanted on the 9th that he would see his cardiologist. Remember, Mitzi, that last August 7, Captain Faeldon suffered a heart attack. You know, the House of Representatives did not believe him. So they sent their medical team and the House Sergeant at Arms only to find out, based on records of that hospital, that indeed Captain Faeldon suffered a heart attack. Now, why would you deprive somebody of his right to seek medical attention?
The Philippine National Police says it's 100% ready for next week's translacion. Police officers say they have not monitored any specific threat for the country's annual biggest religious event. But authorities are still ramping up security measures. Our senior correspondent David Santos tells us why.
From trucks plowing into crowds in London and New York to a gunman firing on concert goers in Las Vegas, lone wolf attacks are now a critical security risk even here in the country. Unlike terror plots of organized armed groups, lone wolf attacks are difficult to detect.
Pag sinabi mong lone wolf attack, suicidal itong isip o pag-uisip nitong mga tao na to. Totoo yan, napakahirap kung talagang hindi tayo tulungan ng mga kababayan natin.
With more than 2 million people expected to join this year's translacion, authorities are not taking any chances. The massive crowd crawling into Manila streets for hours during the procession is a vulnerable target. Aside from deploying more than 5,000 policemen and soldiers, including those in plain clothes, to do surveillance, snipers will also be posted on high-rise buildings. The procession route is a no-fly zone. Gun permits will be suspended from January 8 to 10. Mobile phone signals will likely be jammed on the day of the translacion.
Kung gagamit siya ng cellphone, patay na yung signal natin, no? Ngayon, kung magse-safe house siya, kailangan meron tayong mga intelligence na nanggagaling doon sa ground.
The police say devotees should also do their part. Keep an eye on suspicious persons and their movement. Those bringing backpacks will be randomly checked. David Santos, CNN Philippines.
As millions of devotees are expected to gather for the translacion, street vendors and small businesses are also getting ready. Some of the vendors in Quiapo, Manila are devotees themselves. They say this is the best time for their businesses, as devotees and curious visitors are beginning to flock to Quiapo Church.
Sinasamantala lang namin yung labas ng Nazareno kasi pag wala na po yan, tapos na.
Kaya nga dinadayan dahil maraming binibigyan ng biyaya eh. Marami talagang tao dito, milyon tao rito, hindi lang milyon. Higit pa, taon-taon talaga. Dito na kami tumanda sa ano na yan.
Some items such as Nazareno shirts, replicas, and wishing candles are also beginning to sell fast. There are also new items like lanyards, pins, keychains, and caps. We appreciate all your online comments on our top story tonight. Keep them coming through our social media pages at CNN Philippines. We're also live right now on Facebook. Find out how the auto industry is preparing for the impact of the tax reform law. And is there a new dawn for relations between the Philippines and the European Union? We speak with Ambassador Franz Jessen live. Tune in to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Good evening to all of you joining us here on Facebook Live. Coming up for you here on Newsnight, we look at an all-time high with the Philippine Stock Exchange. Also, we have a live studio interview with EU Ambassador Franz Jessen. We'll look into the relations between the Philippines and the EU. They have been supporting or providing humanitarian aid to the Philippines for 20 years now. So we'll look at some of the successes as well as the challenges. So many more stories coming your way. Stay tuned for that. And thank you again for all the greetings. We want to say hello to Bobby Paradero, who's joining us from Saudi Arabia. Maribel Gaco joining us from Malaysia, Jihan Gonzalez from Hong Kong, Justin Riliera watching in Lawag, Ariel Serrano joining us from Taiwan. We also have here Gina Fe Saguban Papasin, who's watching from Saudi Arabia. Also, we have Tony Wu Pui Wing watching from Hong Kong, and Pom Siap Ching, a regular viewer who's joining us from Taguig. Randy Rentillo is watching from Maguindanao. We also have several reactions, of course, to some of our stories tonight, including the exchange of words between Senator Duterte and Faeldon. Well, more stories coming your way, and we'll do more greetings in the next break. Stay with us. This is Newsnight on CNN Philippines. The Education Department says public school teachers will receive higher salaries and allowances beginning this month. The statement comes in the wake of the tax reform law. This means Teacher 1, the basic level, will see a salary increase of almost 3,000 pesos a month. DepEd adds teachers' annual allowances for the purchase of classroom supplies is up from 2,500 to 3,500 pesos. 1,000 pesos will also be added to their clothing allowance. The auto industry is expected to feel the impact of the tax reform law. This is because of the higher excise tax that negates the benefits to be gained from incentives given to locally manufactured vehicles. Our senior correspondent Cecil Lardezabal has more.
If there was one good thing that the excise tax did for car dealers and manufacturers, it was to drive car sales to new highs as consumers fell into a panic buying mode in the last quarter of 2017. This particular dealer says clients rushed to purchase vehicles to avoid the impact of potential higher prices that the tax reform law was expected to trigger. Almost all stocks were consumed, leaving minimal display at the showroom. But after the calm comes the storm. This car dealer sees a significant drop in sales in the first quarter this year after hitting an almost 60% increase in sales last December.
Nag-panic buying po yung mga tao since October. So ang forecast namin ngayon, gradually din siya bababa. Siyempre, the thinking ng mga tao, tataas talaga yung ipapatong na tax.
Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez believes small cars may generally see a decline in sales.
Pero mag-a-adjust pa rin yan. Eventually, may bibili at bibili pa rin yan.
The new law imposes a 4% excise tax on automobiles worth 600,000 pesos and below from the old 2% excise tax. Automobiles worth more than 600,000 to 1 million pesos will be taxed 10%. The old tax rate was 12,000 plus 20% of the amount in excess of 600,000.
Premium car distributors see a positive impact of the new tax reform law on car sales this year. Specifically for this importer distributor, the optimism goes with new models coming in by the middle part of the year.
The new law imposes a 20% excise tax on automobiles worth 1 million to 4 million pesos. The old rate was 112,000 pesos plus 40% of the amount over 1.1 million pesos. Automobiles worth $4 million and above will now be taxed 50%.
I think for the luxury segment in general, it will make the vehicles more competitive in the market.
Although Volvo anticipates a decrease in excise taxes, there will be no drastic decrease in market prices.
We have actually been subsidizing to a certain extent the prices because we don't want our vehicle SRPs to fluctuate so much.
For locally manufactured vehicles, dealers say they have no choice but just to stay on their toes. Cecil Ardizabal, CNN Philippines.
Government is clarifying the effect of the new tax package is yet to be felt by consumers. But as early as now, transport groups such as those that are app-based like Grab are seeking to increase their fare. Our Claire Hiao has the story.
Ride-sharing app Grab is joining other transport groups, pushing for a fare increase in the wake of higher fuel taxes. Grab submitted a petition at the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, raising fares by an average of 5%. Under the petition, Grab will retain its base fare at 40 pesos, but will increase its rate per kilometer by 1 peso, charging anywhere between 11 and 15 pesos. It will also raise its rate per minute by 10 centavos, charging 2 pesos and 10 centavos. As for surge pricing, it will only be computed based on the old rates. The cap will also be kept at 2 times the original fare.
We really ask the support and the understanding of our passengers because I know everyone is affected by the excise taxes on petroleum, and we're all in the same boat, kumbaga.
Grab officials say it's only fair to adjust the fare. The LTFRB has capped surge pricing since December 2016. Ride-sharing apps have not changed their rates since. Grab drivers are making do with the same pay despite prices of basic goods going up over the last 2 years. Now, the tax on all fuel products will also kick in from 2018 to 2020, taking a bigger chunk out of their budget.
To be honest, magiging mas mahirap para sa mga drivers na kumita ng sapat para sa pamilya nila, no? Mas mahirap. Up and downs ng cost ng living, no? Wala po tayong naging adjustment. So ngayon po lang talaga yung adjustment na hinihingi mo namin na maliit lang.
Grab says the fare increase will also benefit passengers in a way. The demand for Grab cars has gone up 30% since the surge cap was imposed. Already, it has been difficult for passengers to book a ride on the app today. Officials warn it could get even harder if drivers are forced out of work because they are simply not earning enough.
Some of these drivers are operating sapat lang talaga, no? And if they cannot earn enough to take home sa rides nila per day, bakang maghahanap na sila ibang hanap buhay.
Grab hopes to set a hearing with the LTFRB by next Wednesday. If all goes well, officials say the regulator could issue a final decision by the end of next week. Claire Yao, CNN Philippines.
The local stock market closes the first trading week of 2018 with a bang. The Philippine Stock Exchange Index sets a new all-time high. It settled at 87.70, slightly higher than yesterday's close of 87.39. This is the third consecutive day the local bourse posted record gains. All indices settled in the positive territory except the services sector. Globe and Smart say they will comply with the government order extending the validity of prepaid load. Beginning tomorrow, January 6th, all prepaid load of Globe, Smart, TNT, and Sun with denomination of 300 pesos and above will carry a 1-year expiration period. That's regardless of the validity period printed on the physical cards already sold in the market. But the Department of Information and Communications Technology points out prepaid credits purchased for promos and other services with specific period of use are excluded from the 1-year validity. The so-called award season in Hollywood kicks off with a big party on Sunday night, Monday morning here in Manila. In this report, CNN's Stephanie Elam takes a look at the biggest nominees and the new host of the 75th Annual Golden Globe Awards.
It's that time of the year, award season in Hollywood.
Right, guys, keep it going.
The Golden Globes kick off the festivities by honoring the best in film and television from the last year. The Shape of Water leads the movie categories with 7 nominations, including Best Picture, Drama.
It's a very artful, fantastic, visually striking film, also with an actress, Sally Hawkins, whom they like very much.
The Unusual Romance faces off against Call Me By Your Name, Dunkirk, The Post, and 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri.
So how long has this been going on, this thing?
The inclusion of Get Out for Best Picture in the comedy or musical category stirred up some controversy, but the racially tinged thriller was a fan favorite in theaters.
Sink into the floor.
The box office hit is up against The Disaster Artist, The Greatest Showman, I, Tonya, and Lady Bird.
I want more!
For television, it's all about the ladies of Big Little Lies. The HBO series is up for 6 awards, the most of any television program, including Best TV Movie or Limited Series.
In addition to being a great show, it's also really on point with the conversation in Hollywood right now.
In fact, expect sexual harassment and sexual assault in the entertainment industry to be addressed during the show. Nominees like Meryl Streep are planning to wear all black in support of the Me Too movement.
And I'm very excited because everyone is going to be there. What's that? Oh, he's not going to be there. Well, that's good. Nobody wants him there.
Seth Meyers, who's hosting the show, is known for his politically charged comedy. His promo posters, which tout, quote, Hollywood, we have a lot to talk about, make it clear the late-night host won't back down at the Globes.
I think it'll be difficult to avoid having some national and presidential politics creep into what Seth Meyers has to say from the stage.
A lot to expect from Hollywood's biggest party. Stephanie Elam, CNN, Hollywood.
The challenges and opportunities in store for the country with the European Union, Ambassador Yesin is joining us. Find out why scientists are saying chocolate could become a thing of the past. This is Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. On Facebook Live, coming up for you in the final segment of Newsnight, we have live in the studio EU Ambassador Franz Yesin. We'll be talking about the successes and challenges for the relationship between the Philippines and the European Union. So a lot of interesting discussions there. Definitely a lot of help we've been getting from the EU. Stay tuned for that. We want to say hello to all of you who've been joining us. We have greetings coming in from Mario Bonza, who's watching from Japan. Bonde Chavez, who's joining us from Brisbane in Australia. Luz Viminda Sawadan, who's watching in Russia. James Paligumba watching in Bacolod. Jeffrey Cortez in Egypt. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's a roller coaster relationship between the European Union and the Philippines. President Rodrigo Duterte has repeatedly slammed the EU, accusing it of meddling in the war on drugs. He's also refusing any aid from the European Union. But his officials, like Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Peter Cayetano and Special Envoy to the EU Ed Angara, are quick to clarify. The Philippines remains connected with the EU while maintaining an independent foreign policy. Tonight, we look into bilateral relations with the EU and what lies ahead as we go above and beyond the headlines with European Union Ambassador to the Philippines, Franz Yesin. Good evening, Ambassador. Good evening. Thank you for making it tonight. Now, we've had a lot of great successes. You've brought a lot of help. The Philippines has been working or receiving aid from the EU for about 20 years now. Let's start with that, humanitarian aid from the EU. A big humanitarian crisis we had recently is the Marawi crisis. Tell us about the commitment that the EU has made to provide aid to Marawi rebuilding efforts.
Yeah, we've actually been here, I think, for 35 years, and we have been consistently supporting the different governments, because what we do in terms of development assistance, of course, is that we support the agenda of the government at the time.
Yes.
Current government, but we are mainly here for the people of the Philippines. So the development agenda is not political, but it's something that goes to the poor segments of society, the ones who actually need our support, who need the international support, and that's where we are. In terms of Marawi, I was very pleased to see that right after the storm or the typhoon we had over Christmas, I think already on the second Christmas day, we were able to announce support. So not only did we give a substantial support of 33 million pesos, but it also came very quickly. And it goes to the people in need, which I think is what we should be doing.
Yes.
So from that perspective, I've been a bit surprised to see how political the discussion has been here in the Philippines, because for us, this is basically a non-political issue. We are here with a development agenda. We want to help the people in need. And that's where we spend our money. And as you may know, it's all grant money that we are spending here in the Philippines.
Yes, you've also provided a lot of aid. For example, you organized a study tour for the MILF and MNLF leaders, the youth, women, indigenous peoples representative, to go to Berlin and Brussels. This is to discuss the main objectives, I guess, was to introduce the group to federalism. Tell us more about that.
Yes. No, we are very happy to work with the different groups that are key players in the development of the peace process, including, of course, the government. Whatever we do when we invite groups to come to Brussels or to other capitals in Europe, of course, we do with full transparency and with the knowledge and the endorsement of the government. We are not here with an independent agenda for the country, but we are here to be helpful when the different parties, they think that we have a role to play. And when we talk about the peace processes, I mean, it's issues that we have been through in Europe where the European project is, in fact, a peace project. Yes. So we find that we do have experiences in Europe that may be of use also here in the Philippines. So to look at how did we overcome century-long issues in Europe to build a society that is peaceful and works in harmony within Europe. Yes. How can we share that with the Philippines? And of course, we are keen to share this experience.
Extremely important, as we saw in the peace talks in Norway. Now let's move on to, of course, we had the recent ASEAN summit last year, which the Philippines chaired. Big highlight also of the EU relationships with the Philippines was participation in some of these meetings. Tell us about the biggest highlight for you.
For me, it was great to have the Council President out here, President Tusk, and to have him spending 2-3 days focusing on not only the Philippines but also on Southeast Asia and East Asia. I think that's terribly important because we should avoid being inward-looking or looking only at the neighborhood in Europe. We should be looking at the rest of the world, including this very dynamic region, with very open eyes. And it was good to have him here. It was the first time he came as a Council President to the Philippines. And he had good discussions, not only with the Philippine counterparts, but also with the other ASEAN counterparts that he met.
Yes, and definitely, I wish we had more time to discuss even the contributions for culture, of course, renewable energy. But I'd like to ask you now about some of the challenges. Last year, President Duterte gave some criticism to the EU. Of course, he slammed the EU for some wrong information they found out later about something that supposedly a delegation from the EU said about him. And also, they were saying about there's some kind of diplomatic conflict where the government feels there are conditions for EU development aid. What is your response to that?
I think you said it in your introduction. We have to move beyond the headlines because what we do here is, in fact, that we are having a very good relationship in many substantial ways. Most people in the Philippines are not aware that we are actually the second biggest export market for the Philippines. We are the fastest growing export market. I just looked at the figures from January to October. Export growth from the Philippines to the EU was 33% year on year. Yes. This is almost 3 times bigger growth, higher growth than you have with the second highest partner. Yes. So we are a very substantial export market and we are growing very fast. And when you look at the headlines, you get a completely different picture. You get a completely different idea where is the economic interest of the Philippines. You look at the other parts of the world, but in fact, it's very much concentrated in Europe. Mm-hmm. And when we look at investments, it's the same story. Last year, we were in 2016, we were the biggest investor in the Philippines. Mm-hmm. In 2017, we are probably going to be the second biggest, with Japan being the biggest. Mm-hmm. So we're sort of neck and neck with the Japanese on investments, which again shows a very strong commitment from European industry to the Philippine economy.
Yes, and we do have a lot of OFWs there and growing more.
800,000. And when I met with the Department of Labor, of course, Secretary Bello, he made a very strong point saying that it's one of the areas where he gets very few complaints because the OFWs working in Europe, they have good conditions, they're well integrated, and they're very much welcomed in Europe.
Yes. Ambassador, now let's look at a forecast. What do you see as we move forward? What can we expect in the coming year between relations with the EU?
I think on the economic side, we'll continue to be a very fast-growing market for the Philippines. I see that continuing on a very good trend that we have. I hope that some of the political misunderstandings will gradually be erased. And I'm probably a bit concerned about our development assistance, because I think it's a shame if that's being reduced, because what we are trying to do here is, in fact, to support an agenda which should be very close to the government's agenda, that is a pro-poor agenda, which President Duterte, he's very much in favor of. So there should be no issue there. But a bit sadly, we do have an issue, which we will try to overcome with the Department of Finance and the other departments involved. We had one trade project, which we call TRTA, Trade-Related Technical Assistance. It's been going on for 15 years, and this year we were not able to continue it because it was being seen as interfering in the independence of the Philippines. And it's not easy for me to understand how a trade project can be seen as being a political issue between the two of us. But of course, we respect the decision taken by the government, and if they are not interested in this particular project, so be it.
Yeah, well, I wish we had more time to talk about this. Certainly, we will have you on CNN Philippines again. Thank you very much for your time, EU Ambassador of France. Yes,
it's good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's it for tonight. Thank you for your time. I'm Mitzi Borromeo, sitting in for Pia Ontiveros. Have a good evening and weekend ahead.